On April 12, 1955, the world received what felt like a medical miracle. Dr. Jonas Salk's inactivated polio vaccine was declared safe and effective. It was supposed to be the beginning of the end for one of the most terrifying diseases of the 20th century. But just 2 weeks later, the United States government began receiving devastating reports. Children who had just received the vaccine from a California manufacturer named Cutter Laboratories were becoming paralyzed. The very injection designed to protect them was actually giving them polio.
To understand the rush to distribute the Salk vaccine, you have to understand the sheer panic that gripped the United States in the early 1950s. In 1952, polio infections peaked at roughly 59,000 reported cases, leaving over 3,000 dead. To combat this, Dr. Salk developed a vaccine using formaldehyde to inactivate the virus. In 1954, a massive field trial involving 1.8 million children was launched. The momentum to approve and distribute this cure was immense, paving the way for immediate federal licensing of 6 manufacturers.
But before the vaccine was ever rolled out to the public, there were explicit warnings. In 1954, Dr. Bernice Eddy, a virologist at the National Institutes of Health, was testing Salk vaccine batches produced by Cutter Laboratories. Her results were alarming. The test monkeys injected with the Cutter batches became paralyzed. Dr. Eddy concluded that the vaccine still contained live, active poliovirus. She photographed her findings and immediately reported the grave danger to her superiors. Despite Dr. Eddy's concrete evidence, the head of the Laboratory of Biologics Control, William Workman, and the director of the National Institutes of Health, Dr. William Sabrell, completely dismissed her warnings. Not only did they withhold her findings from the Vaccine Licensing Advisory Committee, but they stripped Dr. Eddy of her polio testing duties entirely. The bureaucratic machine had decided that the vaccine was ready, and dissenting voices were silenced. By mid-April 1955, a massive nationwide vaccination campaign had officially commenced.
The institutional silence shattered on April 26, 1955. Federal authorities received reports that 5 children had been paralyzed after receiving the Cutter vaccine. The next day, the government ordered Cutter to recall all its polio vaccines, and by early May, the entire national program was suspended. The true human cost remains a subject of historical debate. Official historical summaries from the CDC report over 250 cases of polio, with many paralyzed. However, detailed medical analyses estimate a far greater toll. Roughly 40,000 abortive polio cases, up to 200 instances of severe paralysis, and 10 to 11 deaths. Investigators scrambled to find the root of the failure. Institutional reviews determined that cellular debris in Cutter's vaccine mixture had physically shielded the live poliovirus from the formaldehyde, preventing it from being fully inactivated. But prominent outside virologists argued the problem ran deeper, claiming Dr. Salk's theoretical inactivation model was fundamentally flawed at an industrial scale. This theory gained weight when Wyeth Laboratories, another licensed manufacturer, was also found to have produced defective vaccines that caused approximately 37 cases of paralysis. Following the disaster, the family of a paralyzed girl named Anne Gottstanker sued Cutter. In 1960, a jury ruled that while Cutter was not technically negligent under prevailing government protocols, they were still liable for a breach of implied warranty because the product they sold was unwholesome. The Cutter incident was a profound failure of institutional oversight, where the intense pressure to solve a public health crisis blinded authorities to the very people trying to warn them. But out of this tragedy came a permanent shift in how drug safety is enforced in America. The landmark legal precedent set by Gottstanker versus Cutter Laboratories established strict product liability without fault for pharmaceutical companies. It fundamentally rewrote the relationship between drug makers and the public, eventually prompting the creation of the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program in 1986,
ensuring that the victims of the rush to cure would never again be left to face the consequences alone.